you just said about Playground 2025. Can you use the reserve money for that? Like, so if we banked some money this year, like because I know we have like a capital reserve, can you use capital reserve? Does that fall under the category of like, you can use capital reserve money for this?
I would believe so. I would need to confirm that with Christine, but I don't see why that couldn't be something. Colleen, what do you think?
I don't know the rules, but I mean, it's obviously a capital expense.
Yeah.
Playground's an asset.
Yeah.
Just because if once we get this estimate, we can say like, this is great. We're going to take some of the surplus money and put it in there for capital reserve, like for new playground. And I think that would be a great way for us to be able to afford a really awesome playground.
Thank you. Yes, and Heather, as you say this, I don't know how it slipped my mind. And what actually sparked this entire discussion around the playground was, as it stands right now, 100% of our students do not have access to the playground as it is, which is a problem. And it's one that I would love to be able to solve in a way that grants 100% of our students accessibility to the playground and also creates an environment that is inclusive to all needs. So being really mindful of those things. I have started to have conversations with Katie Ahern around other potential funding sources. When we come at it with the angle of it's not accessible for our students, which is true, are there funding sources available that can help us in that accessibility category to offset some of what would be local dollars bottom line? So those are, and Heather, you're right. So those are avenues that we're exploring as well. Okay. And we do have a board approval for you, Colleen. So I don't know if I can speak on this person. This is for a Spanish teacher hire for next year. Her name is Jessica Ramirez. The interview committee was extremely excited about her. She has over 6 years of Spanish teacher experience with more years, not necessarily Spanish experience, but in the education field in general. So many years in the field of education. She was also awarded an Outstanding Educator in Vermont in 2022.
Wow.
Where is she coming from?
She's coming from, oh gosh, Waits River. Her interview, honestly, she blew all of us away. At the end of it, everyone in the room was like this. She understands our philosophy and the kids do well if they can, and how to work with students, how to build relationships with students. She answered it.
Sure, for Spanish will stay the same as it was. Like she'll be
Correct.
the older educator.
Yes. And in Christine's absence, here is her superintendent report. This is a special presentation it is March 17th from 6 to 7:30 at Windsor High School. So it kind of goes into the details of that. The end goal being you'll identify signs of mental health issues in your child's life and communicating support and care. And an educational equity work update. It's being gathering part of the equity audit has been completed. They're currently writing the report, and we expect it within the next few weeks. We are working with Mary Gannon and Insight Education on steps on the right way to roll out this information, because it will very likely be pretty hefty in its nature. So really doing it in a way that is mindful of everybody. And we have posted the coordinator, the DEI coordinator position. They are reviewing the applications and going forward in that process as well. And this is the end of third quarter reports for you. So that shows a projected surplus at this moment of $342,774. I believe that is the end of the administrative report. Heather.
I'm assuming that budget is for the district, not Hartland budget.
That is Hartland budget.
Oh, so we've got even more of a surplus. New playground.
Yeah, that Hartland budget, yep.
Is that surplus or is that Q4?
This is end of Q3.
Right, so the 342 that's left, is that projected to be available
At this point, yes,
after the
yes,
Q4?
yes.
Awesome.
Yeah. All right. So what I will do is I'll stop sharing,
Thank you.
head back, yeah.
So for teachers, do we vote on that?
Yes, yep.
Remember. All right, items for discussion. Student on school board. I think it sounds like a great idea.
Yep. Does anyone have objections to the?
Sorry. Oh,
No, go for it, Hannah.
just a quick question. So if there's an executive session, will the student participate in that? And I apologize if that was in the.
No, they would
Question.
not.
Great. Okay.
And Hannah, they also would not be a voting member, as the 5 of you are, they would not be a voting member, but they would be able to participate in the discussions.
Great.
in
No,
the
I think
open
it's a wonderful idea to have them. I just thought that including them in an executive session just seems sort of developmentally inappropriate for an 8th grader to. have
Yeah,
access
I think
to
it
that. So
would
just wanted
be
to make sure that.
Yep.
We weren't
as
asking.
mature as we
them.
think they are.
That's right. In terms of small discussions and things. So, okay.
Heather?
Are we thinking of having a rotating student or the same student? And then my other question is, are we planning on just one or are there going to be 2? And is whoever this student or students, are they going to bring, I'm hoping that something that they will bring will be like, you do your principal report. I want like a student report, like every month of like the student being like, here's what we're doing, here's what we did, like, and have them be the voice of the student body.
I think that would be great. I'm just pulling up the document. I don't know if it actually outlines how many, in terms of like how many students would be on the board. It would obviously be at minimum 1. It doesn't necessarily mean it would only be 1, but it would have to be a 7th grader to apply in the draft document that we have. They would have to be a 7th grader, which then in theory would allow them to do it for 7th and 8th grade to have a little continuity. But also wouldn't be a bad idea, Heather, to consider 2, but of different grade levels. So then there's some crossover on any given year. Like if you had a 7th and an 8th grader, and then as that 7th grader comes up to 8th grader, we then replace it with a 7th grader, which would make a lot of sense.
Is the
Yes,
document
please.
on?
It was linked in her presentation. That's where I just got it.
Okay.
If you click on student reps on the board, Colleen, it should link you right to a different document.
And do I add it to items for action? Should we vote on it or take a look at the document more? Kind of a question of the board.
Is this the same as the one that basically they're using for the district?
I know
Representative?
us and Weathersfield have a similar one, which I believe is very similar, if not exactly the same as the one Mount Escutney is using as well.
Anybody have any? I think it sounds like I'm in favor of it, and I guess it's just a question of whether we feel like the document is ready.
I'm just looking at the document right now. I'm just bringing it up so that I can read it. But I would like, does it say how many it must be?
It says a student representative.
Okay, I would like, if we could, I would like to change it to 2 student representatives and one that would be in 7th grade. And Lindsay, that idea of like rotating, like one be in 7th and one be in 8th, so that like you get 2 years on it, but like as one goes out, the other one can sort of mentor the other one.
Yep.
Because I feel like, and it also is like, let's be real, they've got lives and they're not going to be able to make it to every meeting. And you want a student representative there at every meeting. So at least if you've got 2, you've got a better chance of one being there.
Yep. That makes sense to me.
Me too.
I mean, 2 years is a big commitment. Like, that's asking a lot. I don't know.
Yeah.
And I don't know, that seems really long. I mean, our school board terms are 2 and 3 years as adults.
Yep.
It's fine.
But I mean, in terms of what would be outlined on this document, in the best case scenario, you have, a 7th grader that then decides to want to stay for 8th grade, but the way the document is written, it's written only as 1 school year. So in theory, let's say a 7th grader tries it, and they realize for a variety of reasons that it's not for them, then it's not like they have to stay on for that 2nd year necessarily.
I like the fact that there's that mentoring idea that Heather had brought up, even if it's just like mentoring, and then they're like, oh, don't like it, but like Heather said, like kind of like rotating them in, but then giving others a feel, and maybe even if you like have them being named like a like a special title thing to make them feel like they're wanted and part of the board, and hopefully that they can rotate within each other. I like Heather's idea on that. I haven't read what you guys have, but I think that's a good idea with mentoring. I think it builds the self-esteem too.
They do every other week. So they have these letters to us.
Yeah, and Heather, Alina was talking about, we could also, I'm not sure in this moment how many would be interested, but let's say there's more than 2 people that are interested. Would the board be comfortable with, let's say, maybe 3 or 4 people on the board to then, if one can't make it 1 month, that's fine, because there's a couple others. So I'm not sure what the board's thought is on that. You could rotate. I don't know.
Yeah, I almost think viewing it as more of sort of like an extracurricular team that they're participating in, like a civics team as opposed to an athletics team. It seems to me that this is only a beneficial thing for these kids and should not feel burdensome or exclusionary in any way. So it seems to me we should sort of open it to people that want to participate, and based on the dynamics of that year, divide up the meetings, or if they all want to come each time and they just divide up who gives the presentation. That seems like the most sort of useful way to approach it. And then just adding some degree of sort of like coaching would be helpful.
Yes.
I think that's a great idea. And thinking about it in that way, Hannah, maybe what we could do is, my assumption would be that this would be more something that we would have in place for next beginning kind of next school year, which could give us this spring to talk it through with students and do the application process. But so then we could see how many people do we have interested. And it could be a really cool opportunity, Hannah, as you mentioned, that mentoring piece. It could, I'm sure between mine and Alina's schedule, we could figure out a way that whether it's bi-weekly or monthly, we sit down with those people and we talk about the process, which could be a pretty cool way to add that mentoring part of it in there.
Right. Work on your reports together.
Yeah. Yep.
Heather has her hand raised. Heather.
I do though, I do want to stress the idea of like, okay, I'm trying to say this in like words that come out right. Clearly a Tuesday afternoon is not the right words. I do want to stress the importance of like having a tight-knit group of kids and not just like some at some meetings. Sorry, my phone's ringing. And some at some meetings, some at others, and things like that. Because I feel like that's like, you want to have consistency. Like as a board, the 5 of us are the consistent ones, and we should feel that we have like a consistent group of kids. So like, I think 3 is fine. I think 4 now we're talking like, we could go 4 months with 4 different kids, and then we don't sort of have the same consistency. So I think we want to stress, like, if we can have 4 kids who want to commit, I am totally down with 4 kids. But like, there does need to be some sort of commitment as well.
Yeah, I mean, that's easy enough that you sort of say, like, again, if you think about any kind of team, you might say like, you're expected to be at X number of the meetings. If there are 12 meetings in a year, we would expect that you are present for at least 9 of them or something like that. And then, but then we can sort of highlight 1 each month to be the spokesperson. If there end up being a lot of kids, would that, Heather, feel sufficient in terms of maintaining consistency?
I mean, in a way, it would be like, sort of, I would expect that if we have like a 7th grader and an 8th grader, that the 8th grader is sort of like the student board chair. And then like the other ones, or one, whatever happens, is sort of the, like the rest of us, I suppose. And it should be, like the board. I just want like a commitment enough. Like, I get it, they can't make every meeting, but a commitment enough where like they feel important, like that we want them there, and that they are important. Like, not just every student in the world, but like the kids that wanted to do this, like they're important to us and we want them to be there.
Yeah, I mean, in the description, it says, must be willing and able to attend monthly school board meetings. I mean, it's part of and must be able to commit to the position for a minimum of 1 full year. So, I mean, it's in the description. I don't know, a part of me says, like, let's just move ahead and see what happens. Like, are we allowed to do
Yeah,
this?
we can
Only
see how many
because, like,
applicants we
We
get.
may get nobody, or we may get 10, or anything in between. And I think I'd rather just kind of move ahead and get our applicants, see what happens, and hopefully it'll be a good problem of like, oh gosh, we actually have to choose. Like,
That's right, because the last step in the process of applying is to meet with the board,
Yeah.
meet with you all, and then that could be that time to reiterate the expectations that the board has for them and make sure that they're a right fit.
Sharice, can I comment?
What did Sharice say?
In order for the students to trust, they need consistency too. I agree, and think we should throw it out there and then tailor it as we go.
So if the board is okay with that, I am happy to pursue this for the spring with the intention of having some people hopefully set up for the beginning of next school year.
so we would open this up to rising 7th and 8th graders, right?
Correct.
Yes.
Sounds good
That
to me.
works to me.
Okay.
Yeah.
We will do that.
Let's go for it.
Next.
Yeah, next.
Colleen, do you need a motion for any of this or no?
I don't think so.
I think we're just saying, okay.
Yeah, because I mean.
Okay.
Lindsay's just gonna move on.
Yeah.
All right.
I mean, I think we set
'Cause we
down
already-
a policy, we'll want to
Yeah.
vote, I would think, vote it in, but.
But I think we already decided that we wanted to move it forward, right?
Oh.
Like, we already decided, yes, we want students on the board. That decision was already made. It
Okay.
was more like, are we okay with this process? Right?
Yep.
I think that's what we.
Perfect.
Holler if you think otherwise. 'Cause
Yeah.
The heck do I know? Survey questions for pulse check.
I don't even know what that is.
I'm not sure what that is. Anybody?
That was Heather.
Heather, was that your survey?
I think so. My pulse, did you get it, Lindsay Perkins?
Yes, hold on. I pulled it up on my other computer, so now give me a second. I'll pull it up on this one.
Okay, like I said, I just like conglomerated a bunch of things and like shoved it on a document. So it's not perfect and it is not meant to be like the end all be all. It was just a starting point.
Do you want me, Heather, to share my screen so we can all look at it at the same time?
if you would like to, again, I just want to reiterate, like, this is a rough draft.
There we go. Let's I did add a comment, Heather, on the top. Because I think the intent of this, Heather, correct me if I'm wrong, the intent of this is to give this to all staff. Is that correct? That would be support.
I think we had just talked about sort of like getting like my understanding, and again, I could be wrong about this, was sort of like to get a feel for like how faculty and staff are feeling about just like being at school and like things that we can do, whether it's like the school board or like you administrators or the community can do to sort of like make things better for them, or things that they're concerned about, things they need help with, things that they would like more support in, sort of things like that. If I'm off the mark, then we can just pitch this and start again.
Yeah, the only comment I added, Heather, on the top here, and I'll highlight it, was just to, in some way, describe what the purpose is. And I had just asked some kind of questions to help guide budgetary decisions, to see how the board can better support teachers, just to, so people have a clear understanding of what the purpose of this survey is trying to get at. So the questions
And that it's confidential.
yeah.
Is it confidential?
You can make it that way. You can make it so whoever is, and then I guess that's the other part, who wants to be the receiver of this information? Is that me? Is that the board? And just to be transparent with staff of what is the purpose of the survey and who is receiving this information.
Exactly.
Because there is a way, Colleen, that staff could do that without having their email attached to it.
Yeah.
So there is a way to do that. So the questions that Heather came up with, your role, how long you've been working at Hartland, how you feel supported by each of these groups. Then some explanations as to why that you do feel supported on your highest, do not feel supported on your lowest. Similar question of feeling valued by each of those groups of people. Then a similar feedback type of question on your highest rating and your lowest rating. Things are going well, things that you would like to see changed. And then images. I liked those, Heather, the pictures of how you feel when you walk into HES every morning. The image describe that. And then how would you describe what it's like to work at HES?
And we can add questions like, I love the idea about like budgetary decisions, just in general, like even asking a question about like, you know, like we may have a surplus. What might be some things that we could use it for? Or what are some things that you need that we haven't quite gotten to? And yes, like the board, I would love to know like how teachers and support staff feel about like ways that we can support them.
Yeah, I think just sort of echoing what Lindsay said, I think we do need to be really thoughtful in advance of this about how we are going to use the information, because I think that whenever you sort of screen for issues, you expose people to the sort of potential burden of having sort of feeling vulnerable or having a new expectation that it's going to be addressed. You know, so what I really want to have happen is that we sort of are screening for dissatisfaction or unhappiness or something that's not working, and then that we don't have a plan in place to really thoroughly review this data and use this data in effective ways. And then people think like, well, I filled out that survey and, you know, never heard back. And it actually becomes a negative where it's, you know, otherwise really positioned to be a real positive in terms of cultivating both good relationships between school board and teachers, but also potentially providing really useful insights about where to go.
I hate to say this, but can you remind me again why, like, why are we doing this? Like, what's our motivation behind this?
Well, I don't know. I mean, Heather can talk about I really appreciate it because I feel like I don't interface with the teachers very much at this point, especially now that our kids aren't in school. So I'm always kind of curious. We get to hear from administrators a little bit curious about what maybe teachers are feeling and going through. I mean, sometimes I talk with them individually,
But I feel like it's a really different situation if the school board is sending out a survey versus the administration is gathering this information. Like those are two very different, for sure, things. And it seems like that's not our job as a board is not to say our teachers are all happy and healthy. Like that's not our job as policy. So we have to kind of make sure that we're not
stepping
into the role of what you guys do in that sense.
For sure.
I want to know the information in the sense of like I want to know that they're happy and healthy, and how things are going. But I don't know if this is really our place to be the ones to be sending that survey out, in that sense, like from us. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Yep. Should we send a couple comments?
Heather?
Beth, I hear you. I totally hear you, and I agree. I think my intention in all of this was the fact that, like, you know, we're in a little bit of a teacher crisis situation of like nationwide and, you know, just in general of like keeping teachers and keeping support staff and sort of keeping everybody. And I feel like it would be nice for us to know, like, if there are things that, you know, like, I mean, if this doesn't come from the school board, then I would like it to come from like administrators to say, like, we just want to make sure, like, we want to know what we can do to like help you, you know, be happy here and stay here, and what we can do to keep improving things. Because like after I read Lindsay's the report, am I allowed to talk about this, Lindsay? Like from your interview, the questions, a lot of those questions had to do with, you know, how people felt about you. And I was like, this is great information. But do we have that about sort of like just school in general? Because again, you know, we've got like, we are fragile and teachers are fragile and support staff are fragile at this moment. And I'm as a fellow teacher, I'm just concerned that we have to like keep checking in with teachers and support staff frequently to just be like, what can we do? Like, are we doing what you need us to do? Like, are all of us doing, you know, what we're supposed to be doing?
Heather.
Like, go.
I have a thought, and it might be something we could have prepared for next month, but we use in the SU, we use Panorama, which is one survey, and some of it goes to teachers. So I wonder if it makes sense. I could ask Angie or Brittany, because I imagine I could pull the types of questions that are asked of teachers, which might get at exactly what you're looking for, potentially without having to over survey staff, if that makes sense.
It's something we're already
doing.
Filling out.
Yeah, already filling out. So why don't I look into, Heather, if you're in the board is okay with this, look into, see if I can bring to you the types of questions that are asked, because should be coming up for teachers again shortly.
I mean,
And
I
then
would like to,
Heather, to the sort of point you made about just the importance of us making, you know, obviously we really want to retain teachers, but sort of hearing what Beth is saying about not wanting to overstep into that role, which is really Lindsay's role, to cultivate these relationships. You know, is there a way that we can just, without asking the teachers to give us any information, is there a way we can just somehow communicate with them, you know, how much we value them and how comfortable we feel with getting feedback from them directly if there are, you know, if they feel like there are issues or things like that. You know, just a communication that puts no pressure on them. They don't have to do anything, but that just reiterates, here's our email addresses, here are our phone numbers. You know, we really value all of you and want to hear if there are things that specifically we as the school board could be doing to make this workplace better.
Yeah, I like that idea. I wonder if a way, I send out a weekly it's a Monday memo, but I send it out every Sunday afternoon to staff. And if the board was wanting to just write something that with all of your emails in it, then I could just include that in the weekly staff update. So then they see that, okay, you know, here are these contact information for our board members. I'm sure many teachers know each of you as board members, but there are some that may not as well. And to have your email addresses handy there and to, you know, and we can reiterate that it's okay, you know, please, you know, reach out and we're here to support. So if that's something the board is interested in, I'm happy to put that in. It just goes to all staff that are here in the building, not necessarily in the community at large, although if you want to do something that would target the larger community, we could put that in the Wildcat Weekly as well. But so I have two different ones that go out on a weekly basis.
No, I think the staff one would be great, because then it doesn't just touch the teaching staff, you know, like we want everyone to know who we are. And I think still, whatever survey you were talking about, Lindsay.
Panorama.
Yeah, like I'd like to know that, like.
Is that a once a year?
A couple times a year.
A couple of times.
Yeah. And it's, students do it as well. So students in grades 3 and up participate in it also.
Yeah, so I mean, maybe next meeting, can we discuss those questions from Panorama and see if it'll work, and see if not, then maybe if we feel like we need to
Do
create
something
something
different,
different, then we can make that decision.
That's fine by me.
That sounds good.
Okay, I will add it for my to-dos for May.
For May. Gosh,
Follow up on budget surplus.
let me do that.
Yeah, through the administrative report.
Okay.
Yep.
We're down to items for action. Does that sound right? Time is it 7? But it's not even 7.
So now we get to blame
7.
Nikki, that it's always her fault that we have late meetings.
I think she left me with an easy agenda. is what she
Colleen,
said.
you are doing a phenomenal job. Way to go. Keep it up.
She's doing it.
We'd have been done like in half the time with a
If a
gavel.
gavel, I would just be like, stop the hammering. Okay, we gotta move on.
I'll take a motion to approve the hiring of our Spanish teacher,
Jessica,
Jessica Ramirez.
Jessica Ramirez.
I so move.
Second.
Hire Jessica Ramirez.
I'll second.
Thank you, Hannah. All right, I'll go around. If you're in favor, say aye. If you're not, say something else. Beth,
Aye.
Hannah,
Aye.
Heather,
Aye.
and Colleen says aye. Like there's 4 of us.
Same one.
And was there anything else? I don't think we vote on it, but to check out the playground, were we talking about?
Yeah, I can, so they are working on some specs, and if that is ready for next month, I will bring it. And either way, I can give you an update. Even if it's not ready, I can just say they're still working on it.
So all of those items for discussion we'll revisit next month.
Do we need to do the student on the school board, or just see where we're at with it?
Yeah.
I guess. It's really
I
in
would-
this June, yeah.
Oh, you're gonna go ahead. We may not need to discuss it next month.
What I could do, Colleen, if this works for you, is I can, if we have some traction on it, I can include it in the administrative report.
Yeah.
And if not, I can just update, here's where we're at this time.
Yeah. Okay. That sounds great.
Okay.
Anything else we should add to next month's agenda?
Is there any cool projects happening that we should know about? I'm trying to think. Or uncool, I mean, we don't have to make everything flashy.
Lots of cool things. Yeah, we can, I know we don't have a student report this month, but we can get a student report on, put some feelers out there and see.
Yeah, if there seems to be something.
Yeah.
We don't have to force the
Always
issue.
Yeah,
No.
always lots of cool things going on.
Okay, oh, I don't have anything else to add to agenda. I'll leave it as it is. If there's no other input.
Colleen, can you repeat what you have on the agenda for next month?
I'm looking at items for discussion, I guess, just kind of a repeat of our current agenda. For the most part.
Should we put on the agenda the planning date of our summer meeting or our summer board get together?
Set the date for our board
Set the date for the board retreat?
Okay, yes.
Probably. Summer plans are happening.
That's true. You want to get it in there.
We're gonna hope for the best.
Right. I'm assuming our minute taker will.
Yes.
I'm just writing things for the fun of it. All right, I'll take a motion to enter into executive session.
So moves.
I'll second.
Beth and Anna. Beth, all those in favor, Beth?
Aye. Of me. Aye.
Anna,
Aye.
Heather,
Aye.
Colleen says aye. Okay, I'll stop. We should
I'll
stop recording.
Yep.
And do we need to go
We can
scurry?
head into my office.
And
I
we'll
don't think
go-
it will be long.
Bye.
So we're going into.
Thank you.
How do we, thank you guys.